This podcast is intended for a mature audience. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome back to Legend of the Bones. Following in the footsteps of giants, Legend of the Bones is a chimera. A mix of old-school tabletop RPG and dark fantasy storytelling. As its name might suggest, in Legend of the Bones the dice rule. There'll be no rerolls, no fudging the dice, no metacurrency. The roll of the bones will determine the character's destiny, and no one will be spared their fate. None shall escape the destiny of bone. Last time on Legend of the Bones. The party entered the Squalarium under the great library of the monastery of Inisquin by means of a secret passage, in an attempt to gain entry to the vault. Upon doing so, Beric triggered a trap which released the bonds of the vault's guardian, a monk who had become an undead ghoul. The creature attacked Beric, paralysing the warrior, and then did the same to Jenna before being turned by Lena and hacked down by Canute. Lena freed Beric by means of a Cure Light Wounds miracle, but was unable to pray for any more favours to free Jenna. Meanwhile, Valen and Talion searched through the parchments and manuscripts until Valen found a scroll containing the powerful spell Dragon's Breath. The companions found that the vault's door had been replaced, requiring detailed knowledge of theology and scripture in order to solve the puzzle of its locking mechanism. Lena was able to do so, but upon the portal opening, the companions discovered that the vault had been imbued with the miracle of continual darkness. High up in the chamber, Valen noticed a strange white orb, a light encased in black glass, preventing its illumination. Talion instructed the others to stand back and cover their ears, before the bard disappeared into the black void of the vault. There, the bard projected a magic sound whose pitch shattered the glass sphere, releasing an enchanted runestone which counteracted the darkness with a magical light. Chapter 37, Part 1, Day 37, The Hour of the First Bell. Party status: Beric, 26 out of 28 hit points. Lena, 20 out of 20 hit points. Valen, 15 out of 15 hit points. Talion, 21 out of 21 hit points. Canute, 16 out of 24 hit points. Jenna, 3 out of 6 hit points, and is paralysed. Spells available: Valen has memorised Push, Soothe, and Revive. Talion has memorised Poetic Prose and Resolve. Lena can pray for 1 second level miracle. The moonstone glowed brightly in the palm of Talion's hand, emitting a pearlescent light of similar luminosity to that of a torch. The bard marvelled at the flawless beauty of the gemstone, turning it over in his hand. He had never seen its equal. His companions cautiously entered the vault, perhaps suspecting the darkness may descend again at any moment. Yet they looked upon him with a new sense of wonder. He was pleased to have aided their task, not least as he had been uncertain as to whether he could access such power. But during their time at Kerudu, he had sensed a change within, a growing of his ability. Valen in particular seemed to appreciate that which he had done. "It is a wondrous thing to see, or dare I say hear, a spellsinger evoke the craft." He smiled at that. All his life he had been different. Like Valen, beyond the shores of Llan Rhys, his kind were often treated with suspicion, as much as they were sought after for their craft. But these folk, they had accepted him with open arms, and in the mage he had found not only a kinsman, but a kindred spirit. It was only now that he was able to take in his surroundings. The chamber was small, perhaps 15 feet wide by 20 feet long, with a ceiling as high as the chamber's length. Like the scrillarium, the walls were completely covered with shelves, filled as they were with books, scrolls and objects. Towards the back of the vault, the shelves and their contents were covered in dust, evidence that they had been left undisturbed for a long time. But those nearest to the entrance were clearly more recent additions.
"There's no sense in us all searching,"
Beric suggested.
"I'll be little help anyway,"
he added. Just then, a distant bell struck a single chime. "Time is short," Lena said, looking a little anxious.
"How so? 'Tis only the first bell?"
Beric questioned. "Yes, but the monks will rise for matins at the 4th hour, and if they enter the crypt..."
"Why should they?"
"Some orders seek blessings for the dead during matins," the cleric answered.
"Then we have a problem,"
Canute offered.
"Aye. Perhaps we should just find the manuscripts we need, take them and get out,"
Beric suggested. "No," Lena countered. "We cannot afford to give Wiglaf hard proof that we were here. If we get caught with the manuscripts, we could bring dishonour to Brannock and Lord Conwyn. It's too much of a risk." Beric nodded with acceptance at Lena's challenge.
"You're right,"
he sighed.
"Canute, you and I should try to move the beetle's corpse and clear any sign of a fight."
"Agreed."
"Very well, but I wish to stay with Jenna, at least until the paralysis has worn off. She must be terrified."
"As you wish. Valen, Talion, it's down to you to find what we came for."
"We shall not fail," Talion replied, much to the surprise of the others, for the bard was usually quiet in nature. "The ancestors will guide us." Dramatis Personae. Talion. Talion is a human bard, level 4. He is 26 years old, with a slim build, standing at 5'9" and weighing 140 pounds. His dark chestnut-coloured hair is wavy and worn long to his shoulders, whilst his deep-set eyes are light brown. He is nimble of body and astute of mind, particularly when it comes to reading the feelings of others. And whilst he is good-natured, he often keeps his own counsel. Talion is from the island realm of Llanrhys, far off in the great Western Ocean. As with other pagan cultures, the people of his homeland, the Whaler, have a rich oral tradition, and occasionally some adolescents with the sight go on to become bards, a loose order of warrior poets, known colloquially as spell singers, for whom magic is weaved through the melody of song. Talion grew up in the hill fort of the warlord Owen ap Rodri. He never knew his father, but his mother, a soothsayer, told her son that his father had been one of Owen's household warriors, who had been killed on the day that Talion was born, and so the stars had marked him apart. Through his mother's position, Talion had access to the Lord's Hall, and his favourite time was always at night, when the woad-painted warriors came together to hear Gwydion, the Lord's bard, sing and play the harp, recounting stories of great battles, heroes and monsters. And all the while, Talion's imagination would whisk him away to fey-enchanted forests and dragon-haunted mountains, where his mind would forge stories of his own. Gwydion must have sensed something different about the boy, for shortly after his 12th summer, the bard took him as an apprentice. Talion proved to be an eager pupil, and Gwydion was gratified by the boy's natural ability and the nimbleness of his touch. It was not long before Talion began to sense the unseen power in the world around him, and Gwydion told the boy that if the ancestors deemed him worthy, that one day, on the cusp of manhood, he may be blessed with not only the sight, but the spell-singer's rune. The years went by, and under Gwydion's tutelage, Talion learned the legends and lays which had been passed down from generation to generation, until he was permitted on occasion to perform for Owen's court. On the eve of winter in Talian's 15th year, Gwydion came to his pupil, his face unusually sober.
You have worked hard, Talion, and studied well.
He began.
I am proud of you, but now it is time for the ancestors to deem if you are worthy. Are you ready to be judged?
Talian's stomach churned with a mixture of excitement and fear. Yes, Master, I am ready. As the sun began to set, the community, including Lord Owen himself, came together. For the ascension of a bard was a rare and sacred event. The company set off towards the darkening hills, in a procession to Cerrig Ysbryd, a sacred ring of standing stones a short way out upon the barren moor. It was said that the ring formed a portal through which the ancestors, on that particular night, could pass into the living realm. Talia walked alongside Gwydion, at the head of the procession. About his shoulders, a mantle embroidered with leaves that his mother had made for him. As they came to Cerrig Ysbryd, the folk gathered around the perimeter, the flames of their torches burning bright against the black night sky. Standing between the rune-carved stones, Gwydion turned to his pupil.
Summon them,
he instructed, his breath misting in the cool night air.
Call them with a song, the likes of which they have never heard. And if it pleases them, you shall be marked, and a spell singer you shall be.
But what shall I play? Talion asked. He felt uncertain, as if it was not his place to be there.
That you already know, for the song lives in your blood, as sure as your heart pumps it.
Gwydion placed his hand upon the young man's shoulders, giving him an encouraging smile.
Trust yourself, Talion. Let the song flow through you.
Talion nodded, then turned and walked into the ring. Once in the centre, he knelt down upon the damp grass, his harp upon his lap. He raised his head to the sky and spoke aloud. Spirits of my fathers, find me worthy. Then placing his fingers upon the strings, he began to play. His fingers moved instinctively. There was no thought to it. As he plucked, a melody was born, and the words that formed in his mind were sung aloud. Then, the runes and triskils upon the standing stones began to softly glow with pale blue light, before a ghostly figure emerged from each. Talion felt no fear as the apparitions approached. Some were men, others women, and he could see that each bore a rune upon its brow. They came forward and formed a ring about him, their faces in expressions of rapture, their bodies swaying to the music. Suddenly, he felt a burning upon his own brow, like a needle being drawn across his skin. The pain was almost overwhelming, yet still he sang. Then, as abruptly as it had come, the pain subsided, and the spirits faded away as he struck the final note. No one spoke, and the only sound upon the barren moor was the fluttering of the torch flames. Gwydion came slowly into the ring, as Talion got to his feet, touching his forehead.
You have been marked with the rune,
he said solemnly, though his pride was plain to see.
And now you must go forth and roam the land.
Talion looked back at his mentor in confusion. There was a flicker of sadness in Gwydion's eyes, and something else. Guilt.
A spell singer must wander until they discover the great Khan, the great song. Until then, they may know no other love, else their craft will be forever lost.
Talion was taken aback. He did not comprehend why Gwydion had kept this from him. Can you not teach me? He asked desperately.
No,
Gwydion said sympathetically.
The song is different for each bard. Only you can find yours. And when you do, you and the song shall be one.
The eagle-eyed, or is-it-eared among you, may have noticed a discrepancy in the way that I have applied the effects of continual darkness and continual light. This is partly because the detail of these spells differs slightly between the D&D basic expert rules and old school essentials, and also because I've made it thematic, and dare I say more dramatic to do so. On that basis, I've ruled that the area of effect is a 30-foot radius, and the strength of illumination is the same as that of a torch. In addition, objects enchanted with the reverse will override continual light or darkness when brought into the area of effect, but not dispel it, and therefore the original spell will resume if the object is subsequently removed from the affected area. Now, before I go any further, this episode sees Beric, Lena and Valen all reach level 5, so without further ado, let's level up Beric. Rolling new hit points on a d8. An 8! Wow! With his constitution bonus, Beric's hit points rise to a massive 37. The big guy has become a tank. Let's see if he'll get any ability score increases. A roll of 6 on a d6 will mean that that attribute will increase by 1. Strength 5. Intelligence 1. Wisdom 5. Dexterity a 6! Beric's dexterity increases to 11. Although this will not confer any bonuses. Constitution 4. And Charisma 5. A decent level up for the fighter. That hit point increase alone is hugely important. Next up, Lena. Rolling a d6 for new hit points. A 5. With her constitution bonus, Lena's hit points increase to 27. That's very impressive. Now to see if Lena will get any ability score increases. Strength 5. Intelligence 4. Wisdom 5. Dexterity 5. All these 5s, the dice are really teasing me. Constitution 2. Last chance with Charisma 4. Well, that is disappointing, but it's not all bad, as Lena can now pray for 2 second level miracles each day. It's probably worth saying at this point that I've recently overhauled the miracles list that I am using, which now includes a number of homebrew miracles. I'll describe these as they come up, but if you're interested you can find details at legendofthebones.blogspot.com. Okay, so time to level up Valen. Rolling a d4 for new hit points. A 1. Okay, well that's bumped up to a min out of 2, taking Valen's hit points to 17. For a magic user, that's still very impressive. How will the mage do with ability score increases? Let's find out. Strength 2. Intelligence a 6! Whoa! This is hugely important. Valen's intelligence increases to 17. It doesn't affect any bonuses, but the mage's spellcasting ability is now incredibly strong. Wisdom another 6! Valen's wisdom increases to 11. This has been a real area of growth for the mage, and I can't help but feel that the blossoming love that he and Lena share is a big part of that. The dice really do have a story to tell. Dexterity 3. Constitution 4. And Charisma 2. Well, I'm really pleased, but not only that, Valen will get access to his first 3rd level spell. Now, tempting as it is to roll randomly for this, I think it makes much more sense that the mage will have unlocked the spell Clairvoyance, which he transcribed from Ned's spellbook back in episode 32. Okay, so with that done, it's time to get back to the matter at hand. Realistically, Valen and Talion are best placed to identify that which the companions are looking for, namely, information about the whereabouts of the other 4 jewels from Vortigern's crown. And of course, they do not know which 2 of those jewels have already been found by Reynard of Harburg. So let's ask the Oracle whether that information has been recorded by Wiglaf and stored in the vault. A 6. That's a yes and. Well, that was rather foolish of the Abbot, but very lucky for the PCs. Now, Valen made a copy of the markings and words on the reverse side of the gold disc recovered from Kerudu back in episode 33, and Cadfael later revealed that these were the names of the original keepers of the jewels. This should therefore provide the two Wayland men a starting point, and remember, Wiglaf has placed all the relevant documents in the vault, so finding them shouldn't be the issue, but how quickly they can do so is another matter, and time is of the essence. The information that needs to be recovered will need to be pieced together from various sources, much as Wiglaf did previously. To keep things simple, to ascertain how long it takes Valen and Talion to find, understand and document the information, I've settled on 3d6 plus 6 turns, minus their aggregated intelligence bonus of 3. This would give a range of 1 to 3.5 hours. Here is the roll. A modified 15. Well, that could have been a lot worse. Meanwhile, whilst all this has been happening, Beric and Canute have dragged the rock beetle's corpse the 100 yards back to its borehole in the secret passage leading from the crypt. I'm not going to roll for this. The two men have a strength of 17 and 16 respectively, and Beric has a rope that can be used. Of course, the damage caused by the rock beetle to the fabric of the walls and sarcophagi cannot be concealed, but I need to determine if their efforts to remove the evidence of a battle is enough to not raise suspicion. Now Wiglaf is a sceptical man, so will he be satisfied that the breach of the crypt is solely down to a monstrous creature? I am going to ask the Oracle, but given the Abbot's cynicism, I will apply a -1 modifier to the roll, making a no more likely. Here is the roll. Oh man, a modified 1. That's a no and. The worst possible result. Chapter 37, Part 2, Day 38, Late Morning. Party status: Beric, 36 out of 37 hit points. Lena, 26 out of 26 hit points. Valen, 17 out of 17 hit points. Talion, 21 out of 21 hit points. Canute, 23 out of 24 hit points. Jenna, 6 out of 6 hit points. Spells available: Valen has memorized Push, Shield, Soothe, Revive, and Clairvoyance. Talion has memorized Poetic Prose, Resolve, and Pitch. Lena can pray for 1 first-level miracle and 2 second-level miracles. A million motes of dust scintillated in the bright sunlight that streamed through the mullioned windows of the guest house as the companions broke their fast. In the meadow beyond, the sound of songbirds going about their business could be heard, carried on the warm summer breeze that gently blew into the common room. It had been the early hours by the time they had returned, and despite sleeping well into the morning, they all felt a little weary. They had half expected Wiglaf to pound upon the door whilst they slept, but if the Abbot had suspected them of infiltrating the vault, he had not yet come to cast his accusations. Now as they took a simple meal of bread, honey and cheese, Beric recounted their night's work to Brannock. When he had finished, the Reeve looked troubled.
"You must tread carefully,"
he said, cutting a chunk of bread from the loaf upon the table.
"Wiglaf is no fool. Whilst the crypt could be explained by the creature you slew, he'll no doubt have checked his precious vault and found it disturbed."
What do you advise, my lord?
Beric asked. The Reeve roughly stroked the beard of his chin.
"You give him nothing by which he can accuse you,"
the Reeve said simply, then looked at Lena.
"You will go to the library as planned. Then on the morrow, you'll go on your way,"
he instructed. But what if he asked me directly? Lena countered. I cannot lie. It would be a sin to Mithra.
"That is precisely why I don't get tangled in religion."
Then seeing Lena's offended expression, he softened his tone.
"You must have caused answer to your conscience, sister. But ask yourself, which is the lesser sin? A small lie for which you could ask forgiveness, or giving the corrupt bastard the evidence to harm you, your friends, and Lord Conwyn. Remember, Canute is still my lord's man, and you came to ship bearing the Conwyn flag.
The cleric considered Brannoc's words and nodded. I will pray on it. Beric cleared his throat and attempted to change the subject.
Valen, what did you and Talion learn?
More than we could have hoped for, Beric.
The mage produced a piece of parchment, upon which he recorded the information from the manuscripts in the vault.
In almost all the texts, the jewels are referred to as the Hellstones, and for good reason.
The mage began.
It would seem that each contains a power pertaining to one of the 5 dark gods, and the Keeper made use of potent enchantments to contain their dark energy.
He explained.
My master, Amos, was the Keeper of the Eye of Mordgun, whose power can unlock access to forbidden knowledge.
For a moment there was a flicker of sadness in Valen's eyes.
The Eye of Felik can bring pestilence and decay, whilst the Eye of Varlak can fill the hearts of men with hate. Both these stones have also been taken by Reynard of Harburg.
The mage paused to check his companion's understanding.
That leaves the Eye of Krevik, the Stone of Greed and Envy. The manuscripts document the last known location as Angarak, and its keeper, a mage called Demelza. Angarak is near Porthcullen,
Brannock commented.
Then that is where we should make for.
Beric added.
That would make sense, Beric,
Valen replied.
Because the final jewel, the Eye of Selethra, whose power drives men to lust, was last known to be on Inisnath, in the care of the mage Lamorna. Inisnath is an island off the southern coast of the peninsula,
the mage explained. Presently, there was a knock upon the door. It was Catfail and Brother Ranulph. The latter had come to escort Lena to the library, as promised. Gathering her things, the cleric went with the big monk, leaving the older man in the company of the companions. Cadfael took a seat at the table. His face bore a dark expression.
Wiglaf knows,
he reported.
But he has no proof, Beric countered. Not without revealing what he kept guarding the vault.
This is true, but he will no doubt make mischief where he can. You should leave as soon as you are able.
We shall. Later today, or on the morrow at the latest.
Good.
Cadfael got to his feet and turned to Brannock.
And we shall depart to...
But the monk did not finish his sentence, for his eyes suddenly went wide. His body seemed to stiffen. He put his hand up to his chest and he gasped.
Catfoil!
Brannock exclaimed, getting to his feet. But it was too late. The monk staggered, knocking the nearby crockery off the table, then fell to the floor. Thank you for listening to Legend of the Bones. I hope you've enjoyed the show. This episode marks the show's 2-year anniversary, and I would like to thank everyone who has listened over the past 37 episodes. I am extremely grateful, and truly humbled that you've given the show your time, so thank you. I would also like to thank my amazing cast of voice talent, without whom the show would be so much the poorer. And this episode has 3 talents. Newcomer to the show, playing the role of Gwydion, is Tim Giddings. Returning in the role of Brother Cadfael is Dave Patterson. Dave is the host of the wonderful chimera that is the Frankenstein RPG podcast. Also returning once again in the role of Canute is John Cohen, creator of Tale of the Manticore. Reflecting on my 2-year anniversary, I owe a special debt to John, whose own show inspired Legend of the Bones. So if you haven't already checked out Tale of the Manticore, I cannot recommend it enough. John, you really are a legend. I'll put Dave and John's links in the show notes. You can also help by liking or reposting new episode announcements, or recommending the show online or to a friend. You really can't beat the power of word of mouth. Alternatively, if you'd like to show your appreciation by buying me a metaphorical cup of tea, then I now have a Ko-fi page at ko-fi.com/Legend of the Bones. Any donations will go towards the show's running costs. I would also love to know what you think of the show, and I do respond to every message I receive. So with that in mind, you can contact me on X at LegendBones, Blue Sky at LegendBones, Mastodon at LegendBones, at ttrpg-hangout.social, Instagram at LegendOfTheBones, email at legendofthebones@gmail.com, or go to legendofthebones.blogspot.com for show notes, house rules, character profiles, art, maps and more. Join me next time to find out what awaits our adventurers as the bones decide their fate. None shall escape the destiny of bone.
Adventurers, do you miss the days of thumbing through your favourite gaming magazines crammed with tips, tricks and tales for your old school games? Then prepare to roll for initiative, because D12 Monthly is here. We're taking the first 8 legendary issues of this indie zine and compiling them into a glorious, treasure-laden annual, packed with all new artwork and the best OSR content you can find this side of the astral plane. Inside this tome you'll find new monsters to vanquish, new rules to master, and many GM resources, plus articles on death, arcane and divine magic, exploring the wilderness, and even crafting your own dungeons, plus much more. But this needs the help of stalwart heroes, as this epic tome won't be conjured by itself. We're heading to Kickstarter to raise funds needed to bring it to life. So grab your dice, gather your party, and head on over to our Kickstarter page. Search for D12 Monthly Annual, and help us roll a natural 20 on this incredible project. D12 Monthly Annual, coming soon, thanks to you.